The Archdiocese of Saragossa is a Roman Catholic ecclesiastical territory located in northeastern Spain, in the province of Zaragoza, part of the autonomous community of Aragon. The Archdiocese heads the ecclesiastical province of Saragossa, having metropolitan authority over the suffragan dioceses of Barbastro-Monzón, Huesca, Tarazona, and Teruel and Albarracín. The diocese was created in Roman times. Pope John XXII elevated it to an archdiocese in 1318. Overview. In 1912 the diocese was bounded on the north by Navarra and Huesca, on the east by Huesca, Lerida, and Tarragona, on the south by Valencia and Teruel, on the west by Guadalajara and Soria. The episcopal city of Saragossa is situated on the river Ebro. The cathedral is dedicated to the Saviour, as it had been before the Moorish invasion. It shares its rank with the Church of Nuestra Señora del Pilar, half of the chapter residing at each of the two churches, while the dean resides 6 months at each alternately. The building of the cathedral was begun by Pedro Tarjão in the 14th century. In 1412 Antipope Benedict XIII caused a magnificent baldachinum to be erected, but one of its pillars fell down, and it was reduced to its present condition. In 1490 Archbishop Alonso of Aragon raised the two lateral naves, which had been lowered to an equal height with the central, and added 2 more. Ferdinand of Aragon added 3 other naves beyond the choir, to counterbalance the excessive width of the building, and thus, in 1550 was the Gothic edifice completed. The great chancel and choir were built by order of Archbishop Dalmaso de Murray Cervellin. In the chapel of St. Dominguito del Val are preserved the relics of that saint, a boy of 7 who was allegedly crucified by the Jews in 1250. The facade of the cathedral is Renaissance, and beside it rises the tower, more modern than the body of the church, having been begun in 1790. The Church of Nuestra Señora del Pilar is believed to have originated in a chapel built by the Apostle James. Bishop Pedro de Librana found it almost in ruins and appealed to the charity of all the faithful to rebuild it. At the close of the 13th century 4 bishops again stirred up the zeal of the faithful to repair the building, which was preserved until the end of the 17th century. In 1681 work was commenced on the new church, the first stone being laid by Archbishop Diego de Castrillo, the 25th of July 1685. This grandiose edifice, 140 meters in length, covers the Capella Angelica, where the celebrated image of the Blessed Virgin is venerated. Though the style of the building is not of the best period, attention is attracted by its exterior, its multitude of cupolas, which are reflected in the waters of the river Ebro, giving it a character all its own. Saragossa possesses many very noteworthy churches. Among them is that of St. Gracia, built on the spot where the victims of Dachau were martyred. It was destroyed in the Spanish War of Independence, only the crypt and the doorway being left. It was rebuilt in the late 19th or early 20th century, and now serves as a parish church. The University of Saragossa obtained from Charles I in 1542 the privileges accorded to others in Spain. Its importance was afterwards promoted by Pedro Cervellin, Bishop of Tarazona. He gave it a building which lasted until it was blown up by the French in 1808. A separate building has been erected for the faculties of medicine and sciences. The Archiepiscopal Palace is a splendid edifice erected by Archbishop Agustín de Lezo y Palomet. There are 2 ecclesiastical seminaries. that of Sts. Valerius and Bralius, founded by Archbishop Agustin de Lezo y Palamek in 1788, was destroyed by an explosion and was rebuilt in 1824 by Archbishop Bernardo Francesc Caballero. That of St. Charles Borromeo, formerly a Jesuit college, was converted into a seminary by King Charles III. History. Before the Roman period, the site of Saragossa appears to have been occupied by Salduba, a little village of Editania, within the boundaries of Celtiberia. Roman period. In 24 BC, Emperor Octavius Augustus, then in his 7th consulate, founded the colony of Caesar Augusta, giving it the Italian franchise and making it the capital of a juridical conventus. Geographer Pomponius Mela called it the most illustrious of the inland cities of Hispania Tarraconensis. The diocese is one of the oldest in Spain, for its origin dates back to the coming of the Apostle James, a fact of which there had never been any doubt until Caesar Baronius, influenced by a fabulous story of Garcia de Loaiza, called it in question. Pope Urban VIII ordered the old lesson in the breviary dealing with this point to be restored. Closely involved with the tradition of St. James's coming to Spain, and of the founding of the Church of Saragossa, are those of Our Lady of the Pillar and of Sts. Athanasius and Theodore, disciples of St. James, who are supposed to have been the first bishops of Saragossa. About the year 256 there appears as bishop of this diocese Felix Caesar Augustinus, who defended true discipline in the case of Basilides and Martial, bishops, respectively, of Astorga and Merida. St. Valerius, who assisted at the Council of Iliberis, was bishop from 290 to 315 and, together with his disciple and deacon St. Vincent, suffered martyrdom in the persecution of Dacian. It is believed that there had been martyrs at Saragossa in previous persecutions, as Prudentius seems to affirm, but no certain record is to be found of any before this time, when Saint Ingratia and the numberless saints, as they are called, gained the crowns. It is said that Dacian, to detect and so make an end of all the faithful of Saragossa, ordered that liberty to practice the religion should be promised them on condition that they all went out of the city at a certain fixed time and by certain designated gates. As soon as they had thus gone forth, he ordered them to be put to the sword and the corpses burned. Their ashes were mixed with those of criminals, so that no veneration might be paid them. But a shower of rain fell and washed the ashes apart, forming those of the martyrs into certain white masses. These, known as the Holy Masses, were deposited in the crypt of the church dedicated to St. Ingratia, where they are still preserved. St. Vincent was taken to Valencia, where he suffered a long and terrible martyrdom. St. Valerius was exiled to a place called Anet, near Barbastro, where he died, and whence his relics were translated first to Rhoda, the head and arm being brought thence to Saragossa when that city had been reconquered. Before the Moorish invasion, 3 national councils were held at Saragossa. The first council of Saragossa was held in 380, earlier than those of Toledo, when Valerius too was bishop, and had for its object the extirpation of Priscillianism. Visigoth period. In 452, Saragossa fell under the power of the Suevian king Ricius. In 466, under that of the Visigoth king Uric. Saint Isidore extolled it as one of the best cities of Spain in the Gothic period, and Pacensis called it the most ancient and most flourishing. In 542, when the Franks laid siege to Saragossa to take vengeance for the wrongs of the Catholic Princess Clotilde, the besieged went forth in procession and delivered to the enemy, as the price of the raising the siege, a portion of the blood-stained stole of St. Vincent the deacon. From 592 to 619 the bishop was Maximus, who assisted at the councils of Barcelona and Agara. Under his episcopate the Second Council of Zaragoza was held in 592 against Arianism. Maximus's name, combined with that of the monk Marcus, has been used to form an alleged Marcus Maximus, the apocryphal continuator of Flavius Dexter. The see of Saragossa was occupied during the Gothic period by two illustrious bishops, Saint Braleus, who were assisted at the 4th, 5th, and 6th councils of Toledo, and Tyus, famous for his own writings and for having discovered at Rome the third part of St. Gregory's Morals. The Third Council of Saragossa was held in 691 under Bishop Valderedas, and provided that queens, when widowed, should retire to some monastery for the security and for the sake of decorum. Moorish period. During the Moorish occupation, Catholic worship did not cease in this city. The churches of the Virgin and of Saint Ingratia were maintained, while that of the Saviour was turned into a mosque. Of the bishops of this period the names are preserved: of Senior, who visited St. Eulogius at Córdoba, and of Aleca, who in 890 was driven from the city by the Muslims and took refuge at Oviedo. Paterna was sent by King Sancho the Great to Cluny to introduce the Cluniacrofum into Spain in the monasteries of San Juan de la Peña and San Salvador de Leyra, and was afterwards appointed Bishop of Saragossa. Christian period. King Alfonso I, the Battler of Aragon, reconquered the city on the 18th of December 1118, and named as Bishop Pedro de Librana, whose appointment was confirmed by Pope Gelasius II. Lopez, in his Historia de Zaragoza, says that Pedro de Librana first resided at the Church of the Pillar, and on the 6th of January 1119, purified the great mosque, which he dedicated to the Saviour, and there established his episcopal see. Hence the controversy which began in 1135, in the episcopate of Garcia Guerra de Mathens, between the canons of the Pillar and those of Saint Saviour as to the title of cathedral. Archdiocese of Saragossa. In 1318 the see of Saragossa was made metropolitan by a grant of Pope John XXII, Pedro Lopez de Luna being bishop. In the factions which followed upon the death of King Martin I, Archbishop Garcia Fernandez de Heredia was assassinated in 1411 by Antonio de Luna, a partisan of the Count James II of Urgel. For more than a century princes of the royal blood occupied the see, 1458 to 1475. Juan of Aragon, natural son of King Juan II. 1478 to 1520. Alonso de Aragon, illegitimate son of Ferdinand the Catholic and also Archbishop of Valencia in 1512 to 1520. 1520 to 1530. Joan of Aragon, 1539 to 1577. Fernando of Aragon, who had been the Cistercian abbot of Veruela. On the 15th of September 1485, Pedro Arbues, canon of the Cathedral of Zaragoza and one of the driving forces behind the Tribunal of the Inquisition, was attacked in the cathedral by some relapsed Jews who were led by Juan de la Abadia and died 2 days later. In response to the assassination, hundreds were arrested and between 100 and 200 were put to death, including the assailants. Bishops of Saragossa, 39 to 59. Saint Athanasius, California, 66. Saint Theodore, California, 105. Epictetus, California, 256. Felix, California, 277. The Valorous, 290 to 315, St. Valerius St. Vincent, California, 326, Clement, California, 343, Cactus, California, 380, Valerius II, California, 516, Vincent I, 540 to 546, John, Vincent II, 589 to 592, Simplicius, 592 to 619, Maximus, 619 to 631, John II, 631 to 651, Saint Bralius, 651 to 664, Tyres, 683 to 701, the Valderedus, 839 to 863, Senior, 864 to 902, Eleca, 1040 to 1077, Paternus, 1077 to 1110, Julian, 1111, Vincent III, 1112, Peter, 1113 to 1118, Bernardo, 1119 to 1128, Pedro de Librana, 1128 to 1130, Esteban, 1130 to 1137, Garcia Guerra de Mathens, 1137, Guillermo, 1137 to 1152, Bernardo Jimenez, 1152 to 1184, Pedro Tarolla, 1184 to 1199, Ramon de Castellazuelo, 1200, Rodrigo de Rocaberti, 1201 to 1216, Ramon de Castrocol, 1216 to 1236, Sancho de Ajones, 1236 to 1239, Bernardo de Monteagudo, 1239 to 1244, Vicente Sola, 1244 to 1248, Rodrigo de Ajones, 1248 to 1271, Arnaldo de Peralta, 1271 to 1272, Sancho de Peralta, 1272 to 1280, Pedro Garceda Jonas, 1280 to 1289, C. Vacant, 1289 to 1296, Hugo de Mataplana, 1296 to 1317, Jimeno de Luna, 1317 to 1318, Pedro Lopez de Luna, Archbishops of Zaragoza, 1318 to 1345, Pedro Lopez de Luna, 1345 to 1347, Pedro de Juggy, 1347 to 1350, Guillermo de Igrefail, 1351 c. 1380, Lope Fernandez de Luna, 1383 to 1411, Garcia Fernandez de Heredia, 1411 to 1415, C. Vacant, 1415 to 1419, Francisco Clemente Perez Capra, 1419 to 1429, Alfonso de Arguello, 1429 to 1430, Francisco Clemente Perez Capra, 1431 to 1456, Dalmatio de Merwida Cervello, 1458 to 1475, Juan de Aragon, natural son of King John II of Aragon, 1474 to 1478, Ozias Despuig, 1478 to 1520, Alonso of Aragon, illegitimate son of Ferdinand the Catholic and also Archbishop of Valencia in 1512 to 1520, 1520 to 1530, Juan de Aragon, 1532 to 1539, Frederick de Portugal, 1539 to 1577, Fernando de Aragon Guigaria, 1577 to 1578, Bernardo Alvarado de Fresneda, 1579 to 1585, Andre Santos de San Pedro, 1586 to 1592, Andre de Bobadilla, 1593 to 1602, Alonso de Gregorio, 1603 to 1610, Tomás de Borja y Castro, 1611 to 1615, Pedro Manrique de Lara, 1616 to 1623, Pedro González de Mendoza, 1624 to 1629, Juan Martínez de Peralta, 1630 to 1631, Martin Terra de Valenzuela, 1633 to 1634, Juan Guzmán, 1635 to 1643, Pedro Aparolas Ramirez, 1644 to 1662, Juan Cibrián Pedro, 1663 to 1674, Francisco de Gamboa, 1676 to 1686, Diego de Castrillo, 1687 to 1710, Antonio Ibanez de la Riva Herrera, 1714 to 1726, Manuel Pérez de Aracil y Rada, 1727 to 1742, Tomás Crespo Aguero, 1742 to 1764, Francisco Ano Abasto, 1764 to 1767, Luis García Minero, 1768 to 1777, Juan Sáenz de Boaga, 1779 to 1782, Bernardo Vilad, 1783 to 1796, Agustín de Lezo y Palomac, 1797 to 1800, Joaquín Company Sola, 1800 to 1816, Ramón José de Arce, 1816 to 1823, Manuel Vicente Martínez Jiménez, 1824 to 1843, Bernardo Francés Caballero, 1847 to 1858, Manuel María Gómez de las Rivas, 1858 to 1881, Manuel García Gil, 1881 to 1895, Francisco de Paula Benavides y Navarrete, 1895 to 1901, Vicente Alda Sancho, 1901, Antonio María Cascajares y Zara, 1902 to 1923, Juan Soldevilla y Romero, 1924 to 1955, Rigoberto Dominic Valls, 1955 to 1964, Casimiro Morcillo González, 1964 to 1977, Pedro Cantera Cuadrado, 1977 to 2005, Elias Jans Alvarez, 2005 to 2014, Manuel Arena Pastor, 2014 present, Vicente Jiménez Zamora, Suffragan Diocese.